Thank you for inviting us here today. This research that we're going to present here now is part of the large Carnivore project that Katrina was talking about earlier. And Camilla Sandström from Umeå University and myself, we focus on reindeer husbandry in Nordland in northern Norway in this particular research. First of all, I just want to show you quickly on the map where we are. So you can see there, that's the region in northern Norway. And this map here that you can see, it shows the herding districts in Salten that we are focusing on. Take a close look, you can see all that, well, it's all a bit funny, I can see that, but all that land is actually covered by the reindeer herding districts. The first one here is Saltfjellet, the second one in the middle here is Ballvatn, and then Dokta reindeer herding district here. Here is the border to Sweden, and here is the West Fjord, as you can see, the ocean. So Sami reindeer husbandry has been present in Norwegian and Swedish landscapes for centuries. And the patterns of reindeer movement in this area were traditionally east-west traditional migrations between the Swedish lowlands during the winter and the Norwegian mountains during the summer. So the different areas within the districts are utilized for grazing at different seasons throughout the whole year. So these districts do cover or make use of the whole landscape, as you can see in the map. There is no empty or unused land that the reindeer herders don't use. So this mountainous landscape has a large potential for food production. At the same time, reindeer herders experience significant challenges in utilizing the land. These processes of change that you can see here are related to such as climate change, mining, energy production, human activity, and institutional barriers such as the border to Sweden. We do focus on these multiple forces of change in our work. I cannot, because of the time limit, I cannot go more in depth into them here. But all these changes or processes of change together affect the herder's adaptive space or room to maneuver. And it's particular because reindeer graze outside all year, and it's particularly during the dark times around Christmas and during the whole winter, and during calving time in spring, that these change processes are particularly challenging to handle for the reindeer herders. So in addition to these cumulative pressures on the land, large carnivore policy put another pressure on herding. As it has been noted several times today, the large carnivore policy when Norway have committed to protect biodiversity, it's also noted that we are committed to the twofold objective of safeguarding sustainable carnivore populations while also maintaining local and indigenous pastoral livelihoods. So the commitments through this international convention frames the governance, and seeking to comply with the Bern Convention, the government has specific population goals that also have been mentioned earlier. They have set a minimum number for each species in each region. As you can see here, we have the 4 species, wolverines, lynx, bears, and golden eagle. They are all present in our case area. We did not include the wolf here as it is politically decided that wolves are not in this, compatible with reindeer, and should not be in this area. So beside employing instruments such as compensation, prevention, the government is using zonation as a tool where the goal is to separate grazing animals and carnivores. So our focus is to analyze how these cumulative effects that were mentioned before impact upon reindeer herders' flexibility and pastoral mobility. So in this presentation, we focus on carnivore policy and how it impacts on herders' adaptive capacity. And more specifically, how does this zonation impact on reindeer husbandry? We apply adaptive capacity as a conceptual framing to study this. This adaptive capacity literature is useful for this analysis because it relates to factors and processes that enable or constrain choices for herders, and which are significant for examining pastoralists' ability to act upon and manage challenges. And here in particular, we have a focus on governance structures and how they influence adaptive capacity at the local level. So we have followed meetings in the regional Carnivore committee. I'll get back to that. We've carried out interviews with herders and other key stakeholders and studied policy documents, hearings, and so on. So is it then possible with coexistence between reindeer pasturing and carnivores? The government's solution to this is zonation with strict boundaries. With zoning as the management tool, local authorities, through these regional carnivore committees, are expected to deliver on nationally defined population goals for carnivores. So the double objective of carnivore pastoral coexistence at the national level translate into real dilemmas at local level, and we look at how these are being played out in deciding on where these zones should be in the landscape. The regional Carnivore Committee in Nordland tried to consider the pastoral industries or create this balance between the twofold objective in the previous management plan, and has been criticized for drawing zones that were too fragmented. The government suggested larger zones for carnivores, particularly east of the main road going north-south, and then with grazing animals to the west. As you can see here, this is the main road going north in Norway. So this was the suggested wolverine zone, and here are 4 lynx. It's a different system for the lynx, which I will not go into here, but this was the government suggested the two options with the light blue and the dark blue, but the management plan, as the regional Carnivore Committee decided upon, did follow the smaller sized for the wolverine. Another example is the suggested bear zone. A challenge here will be for those herding districts that have their calving areas on the eastern side or don't have access at all towards the coast. So here is the suggested bear zone that the government has suggested. And as you can see, this is the same map I showed before. Balvatn reindeer herding district. This bear zone covers the whole district. And the same does the lynx and the wolverine zones. So this bear zone that the government has suggested is based on available knowledge on bear habitats. And the Regional Carnivore Committee has recently been revising their management plan for carnivores. And we have been following this process quite closely. So the committee has not so far been willing to make this, as I was saying, the wolverine zone this large, and they have not yet decided what to do with the bear zone. The struggle is how will it affect the Sami reindeer herding community living in these landscapes. So zonation in practice becomes a struggle between production landscapes and these landscapes for carnivores on the one hand, but also a struggle or tug of war between national and local level, as also illustrated in the Swedish case earlier. So zonation sounds reasonable in theory, but in practice there are negative consequences when not considering reindeer herders' use of pastures and seeing this in relation to the cumulative effects that are impacting on herding. As was mentioned in the previous presentation, there are similar effects for sheep in this region, but also in other regions. So the Regional Carnivore Committee are struggling in trying to balance the twofold objectives, but this has several times been overrun at the national level, and the plan is now at the national level. I see my time is running. So what did we find, or what are we finding? We are still in progress of this work, but zonation should be seen in combination with cumulative effects, and it does affect herders' adaptive capacity very negatively. The government has decided that zonation is the solution, and both science-based knowledge and new inputs through ordered natural science-based reports articulate its knowledge within such a frame. But this does not resonate with reindeer herders' indigenous knowledge, which is much more concerned with the interaction of reindeer and predators, and challenge the whole concept of zonation. For example, they do know that predators follow the food and will eventually move into grazing land. So with this in mind, the herders we have listened to see large carnivores as their main stress factor for husbandry in Nordland at present. In order to adapt to multiple processes of change in the pasture landscape, herders need to have a certain adaptive space or flexibility, but this is significantly reduced with the large carnivore pressure and policies at present. So on that note, I will say thank you very much.